Now then, Vinyl Monkey here. We're on to 1979, nearly at the end of this epic journey of top tens, which I think started back in, was it 66 or 67, something like that. But I'm going to stop it at 1979, and maybe think of something else to do with these videos. But anyway, thanks for those who stuck with it so far, and anyone who's joined along the way. I'm having technical problems. I've just tried to do this video on my camera, but me camera's not working for some reason, which is a bit of a worry. So I'm having to do it on the laptop, which means that everything written is going to appear backwards. Yeah, I can't do it about that. I'm assuming there's some way to sort this out, but it is beyond my ken, as are most things to do with computers or IT or any of that crap. But anyway, here we go. I'll have to go with it. So first of all, start with I've already apologised for the technical problems. I'll apologise now for last week's 1978 Britain top 10, where I didn't include the Tom Robinson Band. This is their album Power in the Darkness, and that's because I've mentioned before my cataloguing system, which is somewhere between crap and non-existent, which means that I miss out. I'm looking for all the albums I've got from a particular year, and I invariably miss one or get one wrong or whatever. But I think I would have had that one in my top 10. I love that album. I love the Great Cortina on it as well, but it's just so evocative of the times. But anyway, now my screen's all gone dark here. Hopefully it's all right where you're watching it. But anyway, where was I? Yes, apologies to Tom Robinson. Yeah, great man. Yeah, I did see him live once. Great gig. Great band. Great first couple of albums. Still listen to him on the radio now and again. Sorry, Tom. Anyway, 1979 North America. So here's my top 10. I'm going to get straight into it now. My number 10, this is Bob Dylan, Slow Train Coming. This is, it's good tunes, it's good songs from Dylan. His poetic sort of lyricality is all there. There's a really nice band. Mark Knopfler's playing guitar, and he plays it absolutely beautifully, as you'd expect. There's a really good production, which is it's good after questionable production of his last album, Street Legal. So why have I only got this at number 10? Well, it's the first of Dylan's Christian albums, and nothing wrong in that per se, but his evangelising sort of style on this, I just find it wearing. If you sort of listen to or look at the lyrics closely, I find them, they're imbued with far too much certainty, the sort of certainties that go with organised religion, and yeah, it wears on me. So I don't tend to listen to this one very much. If I do, it's very pleasant to listen to. It's a good album to listen to, as long as I don't take in the lyrics. So that's my number 10, Bob Dylan, Slow Train Coming. My number 9, the great Cuda. This is Bop Till You Drop. This is Cuda with, as usual, a brilliant band. He's got Jim Keltner on drums. He's got Tim Drummond on bass, David Lindley on guitar, and some great backing singers as well there, which include Chaka Khan on a couple of tracks. Really good stuff. Side 1 is lovely. It's typical Cuda Spanish inflected sort of style. And it's mainly 50s and 60s covers, but he does them really classily. Yeah, why is it only number 9? It's side 2 maybe fizzles out a little bit, but it's a good album nonetheless. Bop Till You Drop, Cuda, my number 9. My number 8, Leonard Cohen. This is Recent Songs. And after Leonard's flirtation with Phil Spector on his last album, Death of a Ladies Man, this is a sort of musically, it's a return back to the sort of more folksy, gypsy sort of sounding style that were in some of his previous albums. Lyrically, it's a return to some of the sort of quite long, extended poems. Brilliant poems. I love the opening track, The Guests. Humbled in Love, great. And my favourite maybe Came So Far for Beauty. And I think generally Leonard Cohen is maybe less angry, maybe less sarcastic than he is on some of his earlier albums. He's more open-hearted here. And yeah, it's just a really good album. It's probably a transition album before he went into those I'm Your Man and those in the 80s with a very sort of different sort of sound, much less folksy sound. But this is good stuff. Not one of Leonard's best, but a really good album nonetheless. Recent songs, my number 8. My number 7, this is a really different album. This is Stevie Wonder's Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants. This is a film soundtrack which he wrote to the film The Secret Life of Plants, based on the book of the same name. And the book and the film were all about the pain and joy that plants experience, and they were providing irrefutable evidence of plants having an awareness of their own surroundings and the fact that they experience different feelings and that they communicate with each other. And yeah, it's sort of that whole philosophy and, you know, of how we see ourselves in nature. It sort of supports a lot of the views I hold about the place of Homo sapiens, alongside splendid things like trees and things. But anyway, that's by the by. Back to the album. So Stevie Wonder wrote this soundtrack. He wrote it by getting the director to describe every visually describe every frame as the film was going through. And he's written a beautiful album. It's much less. This comes after, I suppose, a run of really unbelievably good funk, soul, R&B albums from Stevie Wonder, and this is very different to this. The songs are, lots of them are instrumental, as you'd expect with a soundtrack, but even those there aren't, they're lighter, they're more classical, jazz inflected, certainly not funky. But beautiful nonetheless. It is a strange album, but it's a lovely album. So I've got it at my number 7. Journey Through the Secret Life of Plants, Stevie Wonder. My number 6. This is the B-52s. Look at that lot, yeah, with those clothes and hairdos, absolutely beehive hairdos and retro sort of clothes. Brilliant. These were college kids from Athens, Georgia. Same town as R.E.M., I think, isn't it? These wrote mad songs in a really, really fresh, upbeat, dancey sort of style. They had mad camp lyrics. I love side 1. It opens with Planet Claire and then Dance This Mess Around and what was a single, Rock Lobster. Brilliant stuff. They do on side 2. They do a cover of Petula Clark's Downtown. Actually, not a brilliant cover. No, it's probably the weakest song on the album. But anyway, it's a great upbeat party album. Very, very different. The B-52s. My number. Where am I? 7. My number 6. Sorry. I think that was 6. This is number 5, sorry. This is the brilliant Earth, Wind and Fire and their album I Am. There's a fantastic picture of the band. Look at those outfits. Yeah, fantastic. These were just a great band, and they'd had many lovely R&B, funk, pop, soul albums leading up to this. But this one, in 1979, this was at the height of disco, so Earth, Wind and Fire sort of ventured into disco territory. I wouldn't call this a disco album. It's much, much more that. If you wanted to, you'd probably say it's it's in the top handful of disco albums ever made. But it's just another great party album. I'm here talking about party albums as if I knew anything about parties. I am definitely, the antithesis of a party animal. I can't think of the last time I organised a party. No, I don't know whether I ever have, to be honest. But anyway, if I ever was going to organise a party, and maybe I should, this would get on the turntable. It's really upbeat, it's energetic, it's rhythmic, it's dancey, it's a brilliant production, it's a great sound, it's polished, classy stuff. I love it. What a fantastic band, Earth, Wind and Fire. My number 5, their album I Am. My number 4, this is very, very different. This is Talking Heads, Fear of Music. Really nice sort of just all black cover, no information on it or anything other than the title. This is the brilliant David Byrne, who obviously fronts this band. I love everything by David Byrne. I love Talking Heads. I love all his subsequent solo stuff, his sort of quirky voice and lyrics, and his sort of punky sort of style. Yes, great stuff. Spiky, angular, different, again rhythmic. But for me, this is an album of two halves. I absolutely love side one with the tracks. Let me remember, the opening track, is it I Zimba or something like that, which I used to think it was sung in Swahili. But I'm not even sure it is a language. I don't know whether it's just made up words to a sort of African style beat. Really, really good. And then the track Minds. And then is it Life During Wartime? Brilliant, brilliant song. And side one is just bam, bam, bam. Great stuff. Problem for me is side two. I'm not that keen. Side two is more downbeat. I should give it a better go, I think. But I tend to either not bother turning it over or skipping it to the end or switching off. But anyway, it's still a great album. Talking Heads, Fear of Music, my number 4. My number 3, this is Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes. This is 9 songs. I think 4 of them were singles. But actually, listening to this, any of the 9 could have been singles. Just really, really strong songs. I love Tom Petty. I love his sort of subtle southern style. There's an understatedness and a subtlety to his playing and his songs, which I just find really, really attractive. It opens with Refugee, obviously very relevant today, but great song. And then maybe my favourite, the single, Here Comes My Girl. Beautiful, brilliant stuff. I think if I had one criticism of this album, it's the production. I brought in Jimmy Iovine, I don't know how you pronounce that, who produced Springsteen's albums, and it seems as if they're trying to make this sound a little bit Springsteen-esque, a bit like the E Street Band, and it definitely doesn't need it. For me, Tom Petty's songs, to do them justice, they need to be stripped back. They need to be a bit sparse in the production, and it's a little bit overdone. But I'd like to hear these songs redone. Actually, I would have liked to hear them redone, and maybe they exist somewhere in some sort of live version. But anyway, it's a great album. Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, Damn the Torpedoes, my number 3. My number 2, well, blinking heck, Peru, yeah. New Picnic Time. I've seen Peru twice actually in when they were over here in England. I remember once at the Mayfair in Newcastle, and I can't think where the other place was. But yeah, unique band from Cleveland, Ohio. Just very, very different, led by the massive in terms of weight. I don't know, 30 stone, David Thomas, absolutely huge guy. But yeah, how to describe this album? I mean, it is certainly challenging. This is not a party album, I would suggest, unless you were a really weird, some really weird people around to a party. But I think my way of describing this would be as if the clangers. I mean, the clangers, if you're not from Britain, you might have to Google them up and look them up, but the clangers were some sort of animated outer space type creatures that communicated in with very strange sounds. But if the Clangers decided to form an avant-garde punk band, and then they were given instruments that were impossible to tune, and they needed a frontman, a singer and a frontman to front this band, and the only place they could look was Broadmoor, the sort of mental institution, and they looked for the most disturbed person in Broadmoor, and recruited him to front the band. And that's what this is the sort of sound that might result from that. I think it's mad, it's difficult, it's dissonant, it's scary in parts, and but it's an album that I just think gets better and better every time. Every time I see it as I'm flicking through I think, oh yeah, it makes me want to pull it out, put it on. It's just it just interests me. This was their third album. I think I don't think anybody in America would produce this album after their first two. So they had to come to Britain to get it made. Yeah, just great stuff. I think I read a couple of reviews of this, and one of them described it as paranoid menace, which I think does sort of sum up the sort of feelings that this invokes. But I've got it as my number 2 for 1979, New Picnic Time by Peru. So my number 1, well, what could that be? Should I hold you in suspense for a few seconds? Well, this album, let me tell you, just to give you the clue, I could have had it in me top 10 American, or I could have had it in me top 10 British, because yeah, it's a hybrid really. There is an American in the band who fronts the band, but the rest of the band are British, and even the American that fronted the band had lived over here for 6 years before this album, which was their debut album, and this was the Pretenders. Absolutely fantastic. Maybe the best debut album of the 70s, I don't know. Maybe I should do a series on debut albums, best debut albums, but this has got to be one of them. This is just a great guitar rock band with a punk attitude, and then with the brilliant Chrissie Hynde in the front of it. And there's 12 songs on here, and all of them are fantastic. I think they're all their own, apart from Stop Your Sobbing, which I think was a Kinks song, but that was a single, wasn't it? But they're just all fantastic songs, and they played with energy, they played with originality. As I say, they played with this sort of punky attitude. The music just keeps you there. They're not samey. It's interesting. It's different stuff. Brilliant debut album. I mean, very sadly, 2 of the backing band, Pete Farnton, the bassist, and James Honeyman Scott, the lead guitarist, both were dead within a year or 2 of this album. Both drug-related deaths. Very sad. But the Pretenders went on, of course. Chrissie Hynde is still going on. And this is, as I say, a great debut, and my number 1 for 1979, The Pretenders. So, sorry about the technical problems. Hopefully I can get the camera sorted, or I can find somebody who can get the camera sorted for next time. But thanks for watching. See you next time. Cheers.